So, a quick introduction. Historically, the Internal Revenue Code, the code, um, and United States courts have applied a taxpayer-friendly approach to determining the deductibility of business expenses for cannabis companies, or in general, companies in general. And as long as the taxpayer paid taxes, the code and United States courts allowed her to deduct certain business expenses even if the source of her income was illegal. But with the rise of President Richard Nixon's war on drugs and the enforcement of no tolerance drug policies in the 70s, Congress restricted this taxpayer friendly approach. So, in 1981, Congress enacted Section 280E, which forbids businesses who traffic Schedule 1 or 2 controlled substances from deducting ordinary business expenses when filing their federal taxes. Today, with over 33 states and the District of Columbia now allowing the sale of medical or adult use cannabis, thus defying the plant's federally Schedule 1 controlled status, state legal cannabis business owners must pay taxes on gross receipts instead of net income. Section 280E does not satisfy any war on drug policy goals. It cripples the development of the legal cannabis industry as well. To remedy these shortcomings, Congress must reform Section 280E, and I think one of the best ways to do that is to enact the States Act. So, 280E of the Internal Revenue Code has been described as a dagger at the throat of the U.S. legal cannabis industry. Representative Earl Blumenauer, Democrat out of Oregon, told the New York Times that Section 280E, quote, affects thousands of cannabis businesses and it's doubling, tripling, quadrupling their taxes. It just cripples them. Now, historically, the code and U.S. courts, as I mentioned, have applied a taxpayer-friendly approach to determine the deductibility of business expenses. Now, in determining deductibility, the legality of the source of the income was irrelevant. It didn't matter where if you were receiving your income through an illegal or legal source. As long as the taxpayer paid their taxes, the code and the United States courts allowed her to deduct certain business expenses. But, as I mentioned, with the rise of Nixon's war on drugs and these no-tolerance drug policies in the 1970s, Congress severely restricted this taxpayer-friendly approach. Now, Section 280, so in 1981, Congress enacted Section 280E into the code, which, remember, forbids businesses who deal Schedule 1 or Schedule 2 controlled substances from deducting ordinary business expenses when filing their federal taxes. Essentially, what happened was with the enactment of Section 280E, they refocused deductibility to hinge on the legality of the income source itself. Section 280E reaches further than the drafters intended. It also doesn't satisfy any war on drug policy goals and cripples the legal cannabis industry. And as we know, it's one of the fastest growing industries in the United States today. Now, because cannabis is a Schedule 1 substance under federal law, these state legal cannabis companies must pay taxes on gross receipts instead of net income. Now, we know selling cannabis as a medicine or for adult use has been legal in the United States since 1996, when California enacted the first state legal medical cannabis program. Cannabis positively impacts states that implement a medical or adult use program, but cannabis business owners, that is, those who sell the plant, are unfairly treated when paying their federal taxes as compared to regular mainstream business owners. Due to Section 280E, cannabis business owners pay taxes on gross receipts rather than a net basis, which results in effective tax rates sometimes from 40 to 70%, compared to the typical corporate tax rate of around 21%. So, for example, in 2014, John Davis earned $53,000 roughly in profits from his state legal medical cannabis dispensary. He owns the Northwest Patient Resource Center. But due to Section 280E, Mr. Davis ended up owing $46,000 in taxes, which resulted in an effective tax rate of 86%. Now, Mr. Davis is just one example of the gravely disproportionate tax bills state legal cannabis business owners pay every tax season. The tax landscape, though, was not always this lopsided. With the evolution of cannabis as a legal commodity, Section 280E is now an outdated drug policy that prevents legal businesses from thriving. Now, I propose that bringing Section 280E into harmony with the original understanding of income taxation, coupled with the current legal landscape of the cannabis industry, will result in a fair treatment of legal cannabis business owners. Now, despite cannabis business owners' effort to resolve this problem in court, the most feasible solution, in my opinion, is legislative action. I propose the most effective solution is the STATES Act.